Welcome back to another episode of Talkin.
And today what we're talking about is expectations before having children.
Expectations before having kids, y'all.
Yeah, so pretty much what we mean by that is like before you have kids, you have all these things about how you want it to go or how you want it to be. And a lot of the times it don't go exactly like that at all. Yeah. Yeah, so pretty much I know before I had a kid, I wanted her to be the cleanest, most sanitary person ever, and that was just not right. I didn't like her being on the floor or nothing.
Yeah, so let's just give them a little bit of backstory.
Okay.
So we have 4 kids.
4.
Together.
Yeah, we do. That's a lot.
We got 2 girls and
2 boys.
2 boys.
Yeah.
The girls are older. The boys are younger.
Yeah.
And we started out pretty young.
Yeah.
I got pregnant at 17.
Yeah.
With my first kid. So technically, they say a baby having a baby. I wasn't really a baby, but I was a baby. But up in here,
yeah,
I wasn't too much of a baby.
Wow. Yeah. But yeah, we have 4 kids, but we take care of 9. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I was getting to
I'm about to say, yeah.
That's just a blow because, when you say you have 9 kids and then, everybody going to think that I carried them. I didn't carry all 9 of them,
yeah,
so
I
only carried 4.
Yeah, we take care of 9, but we took care of 11, 9, 10,
What?
11, 13? 13?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Are you counting you?
No, I'm not counting
okay.
me. I'm counting the 2 grown ones, 3 grown ones,
okay.
actually.
I thought you were counting yourself.
No, I'm not counting me.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah, but none of them went exactly as planned.
No, not at all.
As in, like, how our expectations of how they should be or how they should carry themselves or so on.
So I think that, first of all, let's start off with what were some of the expectations you had having your first child? Because, after the second, third, fourth kid come and so on, you start getting the hang of it.
For sure.
So after your first child, as a first-time parent, we have expectations. Like, we have this big old how we want our kids to be and what we're going to do with them and all these things. So what was your expectation as a father, a first-time father with your first child?
Mine was pretty much, all the things that I didn't like or all the things that I didn't want my kids to go through because I went through them, was to kind of work harder so they didn't go through them. And then trying to actually do things for that kid or having that kid not go through the things I went through. Like my expectations, I don't know. It was just like weird.
So, because I personally, I never had that completely. Like I never had the part where I was like, I want my kids to not go through like what I had to go through or anything like that. I didn't really have that. But what I did have is I just wanted my expectation was to, for my kids to be able to communicate with me on all levels. Like that was one of my expectations as a first-time parent. Like I wanted to make sure that I made my kid comfortable enough that they would come to me and talk to me kind of about everything or anything.
Yeah, see. Yeah, that's the expectation. I didn't have that. Like I didn't even think that far. I just thought like more of, you're a first-time parent, so you're just kind of figuring out as you go. But you have all these things of how you want to treat your kid and how your kid wants to treat you, or whatever. And then your kid is a person, his or herself, and they're gonna do what they want, kind of in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they do have character
for sure. Like you can't plan out everything for them. That's the thing. Like you think that you can, but you can't. Everything is not on the parents, even though parents always blame themselves.
Yeah, I don't believe it. That wasn't my thought process either. As a parent, I didn't go in with the it will be my complete fault if I did what I had to do, because I realized that kids do have their own personality.
For sure.
Like us being first time parents together, sharing our first kid together, and I had to throw that out there because I only got one father of my kid.
Oh yeah, I'm the only one. Unless you need to tell me someday.
But
teenagers? I'm just playing.
But
am I? I'm just like
no,
I'm just like
you're not, because that could be another whatever. Anyways,
don't start with me. Oh, those my kids.
Anyways, I don't know. You the one question stuff.
Well, you better watch your mouth. Every single one of them. Like, we don't need to go on Murray or Jerry Springer. I know all them kids mine. Stop playing with me.
Okay, well, I'm glad.
Oh, well, you're making me a little skeptical. Not just slang.
I'm kidding.
But yeah. So, what do you think is the issues of having expectations of your kids before having kids? Like, what is those issues? What do you think some issues come along with those expectations? You know,
I think depending on what the expectation is. So, I think when you're a first time parent, I think that the first thing you do think when you become a parent is, I'm just going to do everything that, I'm going to give my kid what I didn't have. Or I'm going to be sure if my mama didn't talk to me and communicate with me and I wasn't able to talk to my mom about things that I was going through, I'm going to make sure I'm there for my kid.
Right.
It's like the opposite of what you went through.
Right.
But that can go on and on through generation after generation because there's no such thing as perfect parenting.
For sure not.
So
you're learning too.
Yeah, like, you like learn every step of the way. And not only are you learning every step of the way to be responsible, you're also learning how to build a relationship with a whole nother different personality.
For sure.
And character of another human being. I think that's where our expectations kind of blind us because we forget that our kids are humans.
Yeah.
We forget that we're raising humans also. And
little people.
Yeah, just little people that's going to gradually grow up and become adult people. So I think that that's where our expectations kind of blindside us and kind of slap us in the face when we realize that our kids don't want to be or do what we planned for them to do.
Well, I really think that our parents forget the fact of like kids have a life outside of you, even though people think that they're just kids. You know what I mean? They're watching certain things. They're hanging out with certain people. All type of stuff is going on when you're not in the vicinity of your kid, your same proximity of the kid. You know what I mean? So you don't know what this kid is taking in or not, and you don't know what this kid is gravitating to. You know what I mean? Yeah. You could be saying all this stuff, and this kid could not want to let you down, but they're not really into these things that you're telling them or so on. But, they're not letting you know that because they don't want to let you down. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So the expectation like kind of hold them back from telling you the truth because of, you had this high expectation and they have this high regard for that expectation. Well, for you.
Well, yeah, but along with the high regard or expectation, I think disappointment is a real key factor of why, as a child, you don't want to disappoint your parents.
Right.
So when they have an expectation for you, whether it's college or a certain career or, a way of life that you should live, I feel like they eventually, once they become into their own self, I think that there is a disappointment that comes within a parent, regardless if they're successful or not. Okay. I don't even think success has something to do with the disappointment when your child doesn't follow what you wanted them to do.
So what would you tell yourself, because now you've been a parent for so many years, you know what I mean? So what would you tell yourself, your past self before you had kids, what would you tell them to kind of ease their concern or whatever like that? Because you have way more insight now than you did back then. But back then it seemed like, we thought we knew it all. We knew what we wanted for our kids, but now we kind of, we got a hang of things.
I think my biggest, first of all, not even on the child. I think the biggest thing I would tell a new parent or someone who's becoming a parent, I think that I will tell them to have a understanding with whoever you're having a child with.
Okay.
If you're in a relationship, I know there are single parents out there, but for the most part, if you plan to be with the person or if it works out or whatever, I think that you should have a conversation with the other parent.
Okay.
I think because when you don't have a conversation with the other parent and the kid gets here, and then it's a whole different line. Like, you ain't even focus on what the kid wants. You focus on that, how this parent wants something this way for their child and this parent wants a different thing for their child. So it's just like, for me, I remember us having conversations about, our kids before they were even born.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
we was planning it out.
Yeah.
Like we was planning it out, like how we wanted certain things to be and so on.
Yeah. Like I was telling you like, oh, I want my kids to be homeschool or, you know, and you were telling me, yeah, I don't want this or that, or I want my kids to be like this. Even though some of the stuff worked out, not everything, there was little gaps that needed to be filled too. But for the most part, as a parent, I would tell parents, communicate with the partner that you're having a kid with first.
And what about the parents that don't have a partner? What would you tell that single parent? What would you tell them?
I would tell the single parent, do your best, because I know how hard it is to be a single parent. I haven't been a single parent, but just knowing people who are.
So wait, so you're saying that you know how it feels to be a single parent because you interacted with single parents?
I can empathize.
So you can't empathize because how so though?
Just because I could from my experience, I know like when you're not here and I kind of got the load all by myself, my days can't go how I would normally have them.
Right.
You know, right.
You have no backup.
I have no backup. Yeah. So I can just imagine what it's
so
like.
So what would you tell them single parents? Because the answer that you told them, the parents that has a partner, you told them to, communicate with their partner, right? But some parents don't have.
Before having a kid.
Yeah. Some parents don't have partners. Yeah. So, and then what would you tell them?
I think that I would tell them to not only do their best, you know, as a parent, we all want to do our best, but I think I would tell them to definitely think of a plan and not to overwhelm themselves with so many expectations or not trying to beat a statistic. Because I think that's what goes on too with a lot of new parents and stuff. Like I know for me, I was one like, you know, getting pregnant in high school, saying, oh, I'm going to graduate high school. Like, you know, just because I'm pregnant don't mean that I'm not going to graduate. You know, that was a statistic that I didn't want to be.
Okay.
So it kind of pushed me and stuff. So I think for single parents and all parents, I think don't let statistics kind of make you overwhelm yourself with being a new time parent. You know, because you feel like I got to be this, I got to be this way, I got to be that way, you know. But it's not. Take it easy, you know.
So where do you stand with the expectations of being the expectation before having children? Like, where do you stand with that? Do you think that it's healthy to have expectations before having children, or do you think that you should go with the flow? You should just go as the kid grows, figure it out then? Like, where do you stand with that?
I think that you should have expectations, but I think the expectations should alter as the child becomes their own person.
Okay.
Like, you know.
So you should be able to actually adapt yes, to the situation.
Definitely.
Okay.
I definitely think as a parent you need to adapt, and I think that's something that we didn't have, the adapting parents, like, you know, because that generation wasn't taught that.
Yeah, you're talking about our parents, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about just generations before.
Before,
like, you know.
Yeah, our parents didn't adapt, but at the same time, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have this stigmatism over them like we did. If you know what I mean? Like, you know, nowadays, you know, everybody converse with each other. And so you see these parents doing well or these parents doing this, but our parents just did their best how they thought was fit. They just did them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was I think there's a way better openness to have a lot more structure as a parent today.
What do you mean?
By that, I mean that, you know, parents are just doing what they could do, but we have so many resources nowadays that we are able to have a little bit more structure in our parenting. That's what I feel.
I think that if I'm understanding what you're saying, I think that parents are more open to support than our parents was before, because our parents before they didn't feel like they wanted to go get the help or whatever. You know, they just wanted to not figure out themselves, but they wanted.
I wouldn't say figure it out. I would say that it was no need to figure it out.
Yeah,
in their mindset.
Because of parents nowadays in this day and age, like, you know, they don't most parents don't mind going out trying to look for support. Like, you know what I mean? Trying to find resources to actually help them understand this or help them understand that, you know what I mean? If something is not going right. But never, when I was a kid, did my parents ever do anything similar to something like that. You know what I mean? Like, they was my parents was kind of doing their best. Like, you know, they just did their best. And that was just my mom and my dad. Like, my mom and dad, I didn't even think anything else existed behind that. You know what I mean? But nowadays, kids have other things to reference to. Like, oh, look at Jimmy's mom. Or, you know, they watch stuff on YouTube, TikTok, or whatever. They have other things to reference from, just as the parents does. So, it's way different. It's a different day and age.
Definitely different. And I think expectation, again, has to be something that you just have to be able to adapt. And I'm not saying just let your kid do whatever. Like, you know, still have a plan and still have that guidance there. Like, you know, just because you adapt and you drop off, you know, not technically drop off expectation, but you just navigate a different way based off the child, the person, you know. Right. And I think that being able to find the balance and still try to guide that child with adapting to the child and altering your expectations, I think that that's the way to go. Okay. It's not easy, though.
No, it's not easy.
I think by far, if I had to ever say what was the hardest thing in my life so far, I think probably being a parent is one of the most...
I thought you would have said being in a relationship.
No, parenting is not for everybody, for sure.
I see.
Nobody ever told you that. Nobody ever told you.
Parenting is not for everybody?
Parenting is a job. That's what I would say. Parenting is a lot of altering and emotional openness, and it's just not a straightforward thing at all.
It's a lot of patience. Like, you know, and it's a lot of putting yourself on the back burner because of your children. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to kind of just do what you want to do when you have somebody else to support behind you. You know what I mean? You can't kind of move the way that you normally would move if you was by yourself. Like, you know, it's different for sure. You got to learn how to actually navigate with somebody else being right there with you. It's difficult. It's different.
So what would you tell parents about having expectations for their children? Like, what would you tell them?
I would say, first of all, when you first start, like when your kid is literally newborn or whatever like that, of course you train a kid, but they say train a kid the way that they would go. That's not 100% true. So I would say that, you know, you do your best, but then once you start seeing your kid become their own person, and then you try to understand who that person really is, and then that's when you navigate that person. Because in the beginning, you're your kid's superhero. You know what I mean? Like, you know, your kids look up to you. Everything you say is right. You know, you're the strongest person in the world, so on and so on. And then after a while, they start seeing things from their own understanding, and then you become their enemy. You know what I mean? Or you become the person in their way. You know what I mean? So that time is when you have to navigate, and you have to learn how to actually give them an understanding, as well as understand where they're coming from. You know what I mean? Like, kids is ignorant in the way of not understanding all the what's the word? All the like, I don't know, like all the history and things that you want to have these answers. They just have these answers because they feel this way or they think this, and at the same time, they can't understand the evidence that you're giving them because they never experienced it. They don't have the experience, you know? So I think that you have to learn how to navigate it when they start to try to navigate by themselves. Like, so I would tell them to loosen up on your expectations once this kid starts to become their own. You know what I mean? And then you try to figure out who they are, you know? That's what I would tell them.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think that is one of the hardest things, and especially when your culture has something to do with it. It plays a role in how you bring up your children. Again, like, I think for our experience, I would say that we've had two separate ideals of how we would raise our kids. And I think that our expectations also were different. I just think that I was more of a open. My expectations were more open, and they kind of changed as I seen the kid change. And yours was more direct.
Yeah. I was one of those parents that literally feel like, you know, I gave them this understanding, or I gave them this insight, and then that was good enough. You know what I mean? That was good enough. But that's not true. You know what I mean? Giving a child this understanding isn't enough for them to actually go about it the way that you would. You know, they're still going to figure out for the way that how they want to. You know what I mean?
And they want to. They want to.
Yeah. They want the experience themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your experience is not good enough for them to say, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Sometimes they want to go out there and experience it themselves.
Yep. And we were kids. Like, you know, we're still babies. If you really, you know, we're not that old. But, you know, we're closer to our kids' age
for sure
than not. So it's a little, I think we're able to
empathize, sympathize.
Yeah.
We're able to relate.
Yeah. And I think also, instead of looking at our kids like kids, you know, I think we just look at them as little people.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what you have to understand, that the same qualities and the same, you know, mistakes that we made to make us learn or you know, was a lesson or whatever, our kids are going to do the same thing. So we can't act like we never had that in our life. You know, we still do it every day.
Yeah,
you know?
Still figuring out.
Still every day. So I think that you can't look at a kid as if they're just a kid. Like, they're little people.
Yeah,
literally.
Sure.
So, you know, and you just guide them as little people because they don't have all the understanding.
Yeah.
We don't either.
No.
You know, so
we're learning together.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things.
You just got more experience and you just got more time.
Yes.
You know, so, yeah, that's crazy. I totally agree. Like, you know, parents needs to just lower their expectations a little bit, and not lower it in a way of like you don't have no expectations at all, but just lower it in a way of being more open, just being more open to what you want out of this child, or what you want this child to accomplish isn't probably the only thing that they want to do or what they understand for sure.
And communicate.
For sure.
I think communication is key. You know, even though you talk to your child and you can give them a lesson, they might take only one thing from that 3-hour conversation, you know, but that one thing is a starting point. Yeah. So you allow your child to figure it out from that starting point, and you just eventually keep going.
Moving from there.
Yeah. So that's what I would say as far as expectations of your child. Continue to guide them, though. Yeah. Like, guidance is well. And even if they don't follow what you expect, they bump their head, whatever, still continue to guide them. That's what I would say.
I think that was good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah. Any more
questions? That's pretty much it.
Okay. So, alrighty.
All right. So if you guys have anything to add to that, let us know in the comment box below. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, any of those places, let us know how you feel, because we want to know. But if you're listening to us on a podcast, you can always watch us on YouTube. We appreciate you. But until next time, we are out. Deuces.